Hey there, my Stampin' friends. Susan here at Pumpkin Hill Stampers. So I Stampin' Show and Tell I want to create with you today to do a little fun stamping. Now, recently I've been cleaning through my stamp room and I found some of my favorite projects. And I've decided I want to recreate one of those favorite projects. So this is the project I'm going to recreate with a different stamp set. I'm going to use simply Zinnia. But I'm going to mimic the outlines. We're going to have our base card, we're going to have an embossed panel, then we're going to have 4 squares, and then we're going to put the flowers on. So we're going to work with this card that I've made in the past. We're going to use it as a sketch and we're going to go from there. So for today's project, like I said, I'm using simply Zinnia. I'm going to use Pumpkin Pie, Petal Pink, and Basic White as my 3 cardstock colors. Okay, so the first thing I did was I cut down a sheet of the Petal Pink to make a card that opens up down. Okay. And then I took another section of my Petal Pink and I cut out 4 of my squares. Now for my squares I used the perennial postage dies, which have these great sets of interlocking shapes with the little postage stamp edges on it. So I've got 4 of those out of Petal Pink that I'm going to use as my project focal point. Okay, so we've got that. Then I'm going to do Pumpkin Pie background section, and what I did was I cut it down. I believe I cut it down twice. I started at 4 5¼ because that's the usual. Then I cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5, so it's a little bit skinnier than normal. And I just embossed that with the coordinating folder, Zinnia embossing folder. So I've got the Zinnias as my background. And then I've got my 4 squares, like I said, that I did with the perennial postage. And then I just need to have the images that I'm going to put on the top, and I've almost got my whole card. So for this, we're going to do some stamping and coloring. So I've got my Simply Zinnia. I'm going to use this stamp, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first stamp it with Memento. Now I only need the blooms because I'm going to color them and then trim them out. So I don't need to worry about getting the whole thing, and I can just stamp that on any piece that fits the image. Okay, so I just need the blooms. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my dark pumpkin pie, my light pumpkin pie, and I grabbed light mossy meadow as my green. Now I've said this before, and I'm going to say it today, when I'm going to color and then cut them out, I don't worry so much about coloring inside lines. Okay, sometimes we always very quick, you know, we want to just get just the flower and we leave it all pretty around. But because we're cutting out, it doesn't really matter. So if you want to do some fast coloring, I just go right around the bloom and color outside those lines. I give you permission. So I'm keeping with just simple colors this time. So I'm not going to worry too much about doing extra shading. I'm going to try not to color the stems because that's where I'm going to go back in with the green. So we'll try not to get the stems, but the green being second will cover up the orange too. So not to stress about it. Okay, just come outside of our zone a little bit. Okay, so see how that all just works like that. Then I can come in and I'll do the stems so that if I trim them and I keep the stems or leaves, I've got them already colored. And again, you can color outside your line, just don't go over where your orange is, right? So that you don't lose some of that bright orange bloom. So in this aspect, you need to be a little close when you get to the flower, but as you're getting away from the flower, if you want to be outside the line a little bit, it's not going to cause any trouble. Okay, so color it in, and then if you want to, these center sections, right, if you want to make them a little bit darker, you can go in and do that. You can take as much time as you want to on the shading details of the extra bits. Okay, so don't stress over it. Have fun with it. Okay, so from there I would use my paper snips and I would go around and I would trim them as close as possible. Now I've done that to save a little bit of time on another piece. So I've got my top, actually this is the bottom one. There's the top one, and then here is the third one. So you see how I came in close, right? But if I didn't get exactly on the line, I've got color on the outside. So I don't need to worry about that too much. Okay, So now I've got my blooms. I've got my pieces for my sketch. Now let's go back and compare. Alright, so here's the previous card. Alright, so I've got my card. I've got a background. I've got 4 squares. Yep, 4 squares. I've got my flowers. Like I said, this one went on the top. I'm just going to reconstruct it the way it was on the stamp, but now it's just separate. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then I've got one section to do a sentiment on. Okay, so the sentiments that come with this are all fairly large. Okay, so I'm going to borrow a sentiment from Wonderful Thoughts, and I think I'm just going to go with Simple Hello. So let me get that out. Here's my hello. There's my punch, and I went and got my pumpkin pie ink. Now I'm going to stamp directly onto my square. I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to go right there in the middle. Perfect. Okay, so now we just have to put it all together. So let's go ahead and do that. Put these off to the side. So I'm going to use my liquid adhesive for my background. Okay, so I'm just going to put this centered on the front of my card. Give that a press. Okay, now before I put these on, I'm going to pop up those flowers with dimensionals. So this one's going to go here. And I'm going to put it so that stems and leaves are kind of right on the edge. Okay, this one is going above. Gotta put that like that. This one is going this way. Okay, so I'm going to have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the only question is, do I pop those on dimensionals too, or do I just adhere them down? I think I'm just going to adhere them down. So, I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of each one, and then put them back in place. I think maybe I'll pop the hello up, because that one didn't get popped up with the flower. I'll put 2 on the back of that, and then I'll lay that one back in. And there we go. So really quick and simple. The original actually was a case from a catalog project a few catalogs ago. So I've kept it around because it's one of my favorites. And so I just used that same layout, one that I really enjoy, picked a new stamp set, a new embossing folder, and made it all over again with something new. So that's it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this simple Stampin' Show and Tell. Again, I used Simply Zinnia and Wonderful Thoughts, and I used the Zinnia 3D embossing folder and the Perennial postage dies. So those are all the things I did. You can subscribe to my newsletter, and I include those information for you, and if you need any help, please just leave me a comment here, or if you just enjoyed my project today, I'd appreciate a thumbs up or a quick comment. Let me know you visited and that you enjoy what I'm doing. Alright guys, until next time, do some fun stamping. Bye!